welcome to Program Assessment Maps, Part 2. Here we go. All right, let's get into it. We're going to talk all about a program assessment maps. We'll do a quick review of Part 1 with a slide that just kind of sums up what we did last week, because there are 4 parts to this assessment day with the 4 required deliverables that have to be in a program-specific folder. Then we'll just keep it really simple with a what, why, how, where, when, etc. Just break down. Good. Enough. Here we go. So in Part 1 last week, we did talk about course coverage reports, and I am kind of going sequentially in an order that I feel like would lend itself the easiest to like you getting it done ahead of time for assessment day. So course coverage reports, they should be run at the course level within the analytics tab. You go to course reports and you run your course goal coverage report. Now, I just want to remind you, in case you didn't attend last week, so you can still watch that recording, of course, these can be run at any time. They don't conflict with students and what's going on within the Blackboard course whatsoever. We are really starting to urge and recommend that you run them at the start of a semester. We realize you have an extensive list of things to do at the start of semester, but then you would know, here's my map of where all my tags are in this course. It looks correct to me, and I know I'm going to be getting the data correctly. Otherwise, if you run them at the end of the semester, what faculty do sometimes find and realize is that tags weren't where they thought they should be. They maybe don't have as many tags or coverage as they thought they did, and now it's too late and they don't have that data. So that's the reasoning behind that. Unfortunately, if you have more than one set of tags within a course competencies, program outcomes, college-wide core abilities, you will have to run a different report for each set of tags. And I apologize about that. I know it's tedious and time consuming, but again, I do feel like there's validity to running these because I've worked with faculty before and they think they have those tags in there only to run that report and realize they're not what they thought they were.
Yeah, I was working with a faculty member a few weeks ago and they actually had the wrong courses things tagged in the wrong course.
That's happened, yes.
Yeah,
And
we listened to CCR and fixed it.
And so this is the disclaimer. This is what you need to be careful about. Be consistent about how you're copying your content within your live course shells to ensure that those tags are carrying over. What happens sometimes is that faculty were using a template and that was their source of truth, is what I like to say for assessment goal tags. And then they decided along the way, why am I using this template? I don't need it anymore. And then all of a sudden the tags are gone and they didn't realize it, right? They stopped copying from the template. They started copying from live shell to live shell and the tags were lost. So that happens. Okay, so just be very careful and be consistent about how you choose to do that. Okay, any questions from a review of Part 1?
We have no questions in the chat right now, Amber.
Okay. Shout out, put it in the chat, let us know.
I'm really liking
are
this
here
presentation.
to answer your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
We can hear you.
Oh yeah, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So like as I make adjustments in the semester, I usually at the end will copy that semester back, like delete my shell and put that back in the shell so I can make edits when I'm not. Does that work?
Yes, whatever process it takes, like sometimes a 24-hour-ish time frame for those tags to appear. And I think you noticed that when you and I were like emailing back and forth and you were tagging and you weren't seeing them right away on that course coverage report. So just be aware they sometimes take so if you decide to copy in an entire course, run that course coverage report the next day is kind of my recommendation. So good question.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Anytime. All right, so this is the what. What is a program assessment map? Well, a course coverage report was the map of the tags in a course, right? This is a map that shows our bigger picture level of where the outcomes are aligned program-wide. We usually use it for the higher institutional level ones, right? Such as our program outcomes and our college-wide core abilities. We do have to create it manually, unfortunately, okay? And the lead program faculty are usually the ones who do this, and then they update it as need be. So it's in a Word document, it's in a spreadsheet. I'll show you a couple of examples where you'll get links and templates, and I mean, they've already been created, but if you have something that you like better, by all means, use it, right? But this is just a map, a good visual. So here's a tip. If I'm working with a faculty member and we all of a sudden see that they don't have tags, right? Or maybe they were inherited, like Tony, for example, who's here today. He inherited a program that wasn't so strong with those assessment things and goal tags and whatnot. So my recommendation is usually spend time on this map first. Really think about it, right? Having taught those courses, think about what assessments lend themselves to a tag and map it out. And then when you go into Blackboard, it's just a simple series of clicks to get those tags on there. So this is like a good starting point for faculty who have nothing. And you can even do it at the course level, a manual map, and I am going to show you that. But by no means is this required. This is a good one. PTA does a great job of like using spreadsheets and mapping out their tags and everything like that. She allowed me to use it as an example and save it. And that link should be shared to where everybody could at least view it and then make a copy of it if they were interested. So what she did is she went course by course throughout her entire program. She's showing that she's minimally tagging everything at least twice, which is ideal because these are her course competencies. So these are course level only, right? She shows that the tagging is completed, she shows the course competency, and she shows the location. So even though the course coverage report will show these and reflect it, she's also like manually doing it. But honestly, she mapped it out first, right? Before it is beautiful.
That's a beautiful.
She did a really good job. So she mapped it out by course.
She knows where everything is.
By course, because she got a whole new set of course competencies too. And that was kind of her reasoning behind it. So she started fresh. She mapped it out at the course level. So this is something that I would recommend to a faculty member who's like, I have no tags. I've got 0. I would do something like that. So.
I like that.
All right. So that link is in there. Why? Why are we creating these program assessment maps, right? Why are we having to manually create them additionally when the course coverage report does show a program outcome and a college-wide core ability? Well, here's kind of some good reasons. One, it provides a great visual overview, just like a snapshot picture, right? Without having to hunt for tags, without having to run reports, you can see where your tags are supposed to be, okay? And then confirm it with a course coverage report. Secondly, I feel like it's a great idea to share this and inform your advisory board committee for feedback, because you're telling them like, these are our program outcomes. This is where I'm assessing them at. Do we agree that this assessment aligns to this outcome, right? Like if they can perform well on this assessment, that means that they have measured and developed that skill. And then thirdly, we're going to talk about what we have that's called an IPA model. Now it is not required. I'm going to say that again. It's not required to use, but it's a great idea to think about. It stands for introduce, practice, and assess. And what it breaks down to, and I'll get into it into this next slide a little bit further, is are you providing enough scaffolding, which means enough practice opportunities for your students prior to assessing them? Because if you can visually see that, and I'll show you 2 examples where we do have the IPA model and we don't have the IPA model being shown. If you can visually see that they're getting enough practice opportunities, that tells you that we don't need to change the amount of practice. We need to change something else to improve this assessment for students' behalf, that type of thing. What questions do we have on that? Anything so far?
I have nothing in the chat.
A couple of examples. I'm pausing if anyone wants to come on.
Pause for effect.
Show a couple of examples of a program assessment map.
Any questions out there? We are standing by.
Okay.
We are good.
Sure. Good.
The IPA.
So this is our first example program map template. And this is the one that's housed within like the assessment day module. There's example ones in our program specific folders. And this is the one that you'll see referenced quite often. It's with the Gen Ed academic, the Associates of Science, I believe, program. So what they do is they go through each of their program outcomes. They show the courses that assess that program outcome. So it's being assessed within these courses. And then they name the assessment that has that tag for that program outcome. And they like to put the indicator of success on that given assessment, right? So if students as a whole are falling underneath this benchmark of the 85%, they know they need to do some kind of intervention to these assessments for that program outcome. So that's how they've chosen to do it. And it is nicely laid out and it makes sense, right? So if this is something you like, 100% use it, do it, okay? Another one again from the PTA program on this next slide here though, will show the IPA model being used. Again, not required, but it allows you to see when and where are the gaps in student performance when being assessed throughout all of the courses. Do they have ample opportunity and time within the sequence of courses to have that outcome be introduced and then practiced enough prior to being assessed with that tag on that program outcome? So I'll expand this. Sorry, it's a PDF that doesn't end up looking as well formatted in here, but she's got her courses. I believe they are sequential throughout the program with patient interventions all the way to clinical practice 3. She's got her program outcome and she shows that they are introduced, practice, assessed, practice, assessed. Some are assessed more than others. Her first 2 program outcomes are assessed a ton, in my opinion. But like this number 3 one is a great example. Function under the supervision of a physical therapist. She introduces and practices it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in 6 different courses before finally they're assessed here about halfway through the program sequence, and then again more towards the end. This is a very logical and intuitive kind of flow for your students where you can gauge and assess how are they doing on this bigger program outcome about halfway through the program and at the very end of the program too. So while this is not required, she then goes into her college-wide core abilities as well. And she puts where it's introduced, where it's practiced, and where it's assessed. Now, she doesn't list the assessment. So if that's something that you want on here too, you'd have to alter that a little bit, right? You'd have to add a spot for what assessment it's on, right? Or maybe you're making these a little bit bigger, but this is a PDF file and I allowed you to view it. Again, if you wanted to like copy it, make it your own, use it, that kind of thing. What questions do we have on those examples? Anything? Getting close here. Just want to double check. Okay. So now we're on to the how. How do we do this, right? We're looking at program outcomes and college-wide core abilities. It's good to think of both. What I kind of said before is that our recommendation is ideally and minimally, each program outcome and each college-wide core ability is tagged twice, program-wide throughout your program on 2 different courses, right? These larger level learning outcomes should not really be tagged early on within the program sequence, like in first semester, right? Unless your instinct as the faculty says, we are definitely assessing this, they've had enough practice opportunities, I wouldn't tell you no, but my recommendation would be not to put a tag in a very first semester course on a program outcome or on a college-wide core ability. And then finally, tags should be placed very strategically, right? On cumulative, larger summative assessments. And it wouldn't be ideal to tag all 7 program outcomes just one time in the 4th semester alone either. Because if a student bombs that one assessment, they bomb all of those program outcomes. And that's what your data shows. And it brings all of that percentage down on that one program outcome. What questions do we have? That's the how.
We have no questions.
I believe it's just when and where, and we're done.
I did see somebody I talked to yesterday, their program is, they have a clinical type thing at the end.
Mhm.
And they take every one of them on that clinical because it's the real world
Makes sense.
application.
Yeah.
I mean, if they bomb that, they're obviously not
Ready for the field.
They're not ready for the field either. So they're,
Mhm.
I think it's the kind of course and the kind of, like, if you just do it on a final exam in the last course, that's not.
And that's kind of going into this too. In my opinion, our courses and our programs lend themselves to both content recall and a physical demonstration and application as well. And if I were to be doing the tags, I would balance them, right? We want to make sure our students have that content knowledge and recall of important facts that are necessary for the field. But in addition, we want to make sure that they can physically demonstrate those skills. So field tests, clinicals, skills assessments, projects, other real world applications balanced with those tests and those quizzes.
Yeah, and the thing with that, you probably heard me say this before, the thing with just doing it 2 or 3 times for each tag in a program, for the college-wide core abilities program outcomes, or in your course for course outcomes, course competencies, like, you know where they are, so then if you can find where the issues are, you can fix those. But
Exactly.
also you may want to adjust in the future because that assessment might not be as strong, and now I want to move to somewhere else where I need to see a skill in my students grow. So you don't have 20 of them to sort through. You have more of a laser-like focus on those different competencies, outcomes.
Mhm. Absolutely. So where do we put these? Well, I would locally save them on your own OneDrive personally, but we also have to place them in a program specific folder each assessment day. And really the only thing you have to do is reflect it, any updates or changes if needed. So it's kind of nice. Like if you have one and you feel like it's still serving you very well with where the tags are, you just put it in there, right? We have a couple ways to access with the different links. I won't open it because this link will take you to the assessment day module where all of the programs are listed here below and linked for you. It would take you right to your program. The assessment day folder for 2026 is open. It's ready to go. So you could plop your course coverage reports in there right now. Some people have, and you could re-put your program assessment map as well.
Can't wait till they plop them.
Plop.
Plop it.
And then this will take you to the SharePoint folder site itself. So 2 different links just to give you that access if you want. And those links should work for you if you click on them in the embedded presentation. Plop. Okay, and then when? Well, minimally, annually, I would look at your program assessment map to ensure no changes are needed, right? Reflect upon it, look at it a little bit. But when do you have to make changes? Well, if your program outcomes change, you definitely have to change your program assessment map. When the location of your tags have changed, you'd have to change your map. And then if number of tags have changed in any way, you're going to be readjusting that map as well. So if you add a tag to a program outcome or college-wide core ability in Blackboard, know that you should update your map too. Okay.
Good. No messages have been plopped in the chat.
Plop. They like to give me a hard time. A program assessment map is just that, a map of all tags program-wide, right? We use it to show coverage, but also alignment, right? If we say our students graduate with these set of skills, we show that we assess and measure those skills. We can use the IPA model to help us visualize when students are getting introduced to these outcomes along with their opportunities to practice. If you don't have a program assessment map, if you feel like yours could use work and you'd like to have some conversations, or you feel like the tags and the map aren't quite reflecting and mirroring one another, please reach out to us. We would love to have those conversations with you and help you throughout that process and get your map updated, whatever the case is. You want to use a spreadsheet, you want to use a Word document, whatever the case is, we'll help you get you set and ready to go on that. That's all I have about program.
I mean, you've taken this process and made it something that it seemed really stressful and way too many steps, and made it pretty simplified.
I hope so. We make it more difficult than it
So,
has to be. We really make it more difficult than it has to be. It's breaking down the process. It's 4 deliverables, right? And if you don't have changes to this map, great. Put it in your assessment day 2026 folder and you're good to go.
It's all about student learning. Everything's about student learning. So
We just want to show we're continuously improving our assessment practices for the behalf of our students to succeed. Absolutely.